Good morning. This is going to be a really quick screencast to talk about drafting, which is the next step of your research paper process. If you need to, take a minute and pause this video for a minute until you make your way to step 6 in your research paper packet, which is on creating the rough draft. So at this point, it is time to go from the outline that we created to the rough draft, which actually, if you did your outline correctly, this step should be pretty straightforward because if you did your outline correctly, most of you already have most of your content. You need to fill in the blanks, you need to fill in the transitions, etc. But you've got the bones of your paper put together. First of all, here at the top is a list of like common mistakes that you want to look for as you do your rough draft, as you finish your rough draft, related to, at this point, your research paper needs to have a title. You know, it can't be literary analysis of Their Eyes Were Watching God or tragic hero in the Crucible. It should be something more inventive than that. It should also be more than rough draft. Make sure anytime that you discuss an author, either of the book or of any of your secondary sources, you call the author either by their full name or by their last name. She is not Zora. You don't know her. She is always Hurston. You got to make sure you have at least 5 quotes from 5 sources. Ultimately, you're probably going to have more, like somewhere between 6 and 10, because you will have multiple quotes from the play or the book. At this point, you need to make sure your quotes are integrated into your writing. You can't have dropped quotes. And at this point, I trust that you know what that means. If it doesn't, you need to ask for help. That means at the very least, you have to have a tag at the beginning of your quotes that say, so-and-so says, comma, quote. We'll talk a little bit more on Thursday about how to do a better job of integrating the quotes, but at this point, I'm looking for kind of the bare minimum. Of are they integrated grammatically. You want to avoid phrases like in this quote and the book that we read in class, that kind of thing. That's very middle school. So you want to avoid language like that. Make sure you double check the accuracy of your quotes. Make sure that you've got them right. There were a couple of people who, even in their outline stage, I saw some typos and proofreading mistakes. So check for that. You want to make sure you have topic sentences and a wrap-up sentence for each body paragraph. None of your paragraphs should end with a quote. You always have to have something to say about it. You should not ask questions in your draft. You should not use first or second person pronouns. Be aware of your word choice. You know, this is an academic paper. You want to avoid language like things or informal conversational types of phrasings. You should always use present tense when writing about the literature. So when you're talking about something that happened in Their Eyes Were Watching God, you know, you say Janie moves to Eatonville with Joe, not Janie moved to Eatonville with Joe. And finally, be aware of commas. If you have questions about whether you need one or not, please always ask. And those are kind of your big common mistakes checklist. Now, here's sort of the rough draft expectations. And I want to kind of start down here at the bottom. I do not read your rough draft all the way through. I will not be making comments on the content, on the organization, etc. I'm only looking at this criteria above that I'm going to go over here in a sec. If you want more feedback on your essay, like the content of it and what you have to say in your analysis, I'm happy to help. You'll just need to see me to schedule a time to meet about it. So basically what this means is that the grade that you get on the rough draft doesn't mean that that's the grade you're going to get on the final paper. The things I'm looking for in the rough draft are very explicitly written up here above, and they're not deliberately related to the content. Now, obviously, if as I'm skimming through and looking at these other things, if I see something obviously wrong with your content, or major proofreading mistake or whatever, I will absolutely point it out. But the turnaround between your rough draft and your final draft is so quick that there's no time to give everybody full-on feedback about their comment. If that's something you're interested in, you need to go the extra mile and make that happen. All right, so here's what I'm looking for in the rough draft. Is it entirely written, and is it within the 4 to 5 page range? Is it in MLA format appropriately? It should be, because when you click on the assignment in Schoology for the rough draft, again, you've got that template all set up. You should have your revised thesis statement. You should have made necessary revisions from outline. I've given you feedback on your outline, some of you quite a bit of it, and I expect you to do something about that. If you're having issues, they should be corrected from one step to the next. You should have 5 direct quotes minimum with correct parenthetical citations. Again, there's still a good handful of people who do not have correct parenthetical citations. I've been giving you feedback on that you need to fix them, and they haven't been being fixed. And I don't know if it's that you don't understand or if it's that you're just being careless. If you don't understand, you need to ask questions so that you get them right on this next step. There needs to be at least 1 quote from each of your 4 sources plus the novel. You should have no quotes within quotes. All quotes must be integrated into some sort of a sentence. Your quotes and citations should still be highlighted. Most people, what they do is they start out by kind of copying their outline over, and they start with that, and then they kind of fill in and take away the outline formatting as they go. In that case, your quotes should still be highlighted. This is something important. Your works cited page now needs to be in the same document as your paper. So you're going to copy your works cited page over to your rough draft, and make sure you fix anything that needs to be fixed. As I was going through your outlines, I noticed there's a couple of people who still have some issues with their works cited pages that need to be fixed. So make sure all of that is put in there and that it matches up with your quotes. You're going to, on Thursday morning at the start of class, you're going to hand in your rough draft with your rubric and all of your previous steps. I know some of these things you have in hard copy, the notes and the works cited, whereas the outline and the main points you have electronically. So anything that you do have in hard copy, you're going to give to me in your folder. And you're also going to need to bring in a hard copy of your rough draft. All right. This is the one of the very few times in the course that I ask you to bring in a hard copy. If you need me to print it for you, I will be happy to do so. You just have to let me know ahead of time so I can make sure that I have it ready for you to go. On Thursday in class, we're actually going to be doing a very important lesson on integrating quotes, more sophisticated. And in order to do that, you're going to need to have your rough draft there in front of you. So please make sure that you have a hard copy of your rough draft with you on Thursday. Okay. If you can't print it out, once again, send me an email ahead of time, and I will be happy to print it out and have it for you ready to go at the start of class.